Some massive wholesaling changes are coming right now from this NAR settlement lawsuit, whatever you want to call it, of $418 million. So this $1.8 billion lawsuit, there's other billions of damages being done, just got settled. And what we need to do right now is really break down exactly how this is going to change wholesaling real estate, exactly what's going to really be affected when this comes into play in July. Now, it's still got to be approved. Everything is breaking news, but this NAR lawsuit is going to have a massive impact on how we do wholesaling real estate, how we do it in the future, and how you are going to do your next assignment fees. So let's break this all down and really systematically break down what is going on.
Whatever you negotiate as a fee is just the listing agent's compensation. No longer can you offer the buyer's compensation built into the seller's side of the listing agent. Now, that doesn't prevent creative terms from either the seller. You see, in the past, all this was convoluted together, and the main complaint is that the NAR had a monopoly on the real estate market because once you list a property, the buyer's agent was never truly compensated for. There was no options. You just paid it and that was it. And so moving forward, this settlement has broken that completely apart. The next part of it is on a buyer's agent is when it comes to the buyer's agent, they have to be compensated outside of the listing agent. So when a buyer goes to buy a property, they have to have a preset commission agreement before they start looking at properties. This is going to require an incredible amount of disclosure. They're going to have to really reinvent on how they train agents, and it is going to create a sea of opportunity how everything goes forward. Basically, in a nutshell, all the rules have been changed, and they're going to open up all real estate agents to what they call fair competition, which means the buyer's agents, not everybody needs a buyer's agent, and we shouldn't be forced to pay for it. And when it comes to the listing and selling side, you now have complete transparency, and you can negotiate in every facet on whatever the agent is willing to take and whatever you think is fair compensation. Basically, we've pulled the real estate industry out of the dark ages, and now everything's open to fair competition. There's going to be a lot of disclosure. There's going to be a lot of changes coming forward. And honestly, depends on which side of the equation, if you decide this is good or bad. I think it's phenomenal for wholesalers. With realtors, a lot of them are looking at it as a real nightmare, and that's why they plan on having a mass exodus. But the ones that truly do it full time and are really good at their practice, they'll probably thrive in the long run because there's going to be a complete shift in the amount of realtors that are participating in the market and that decide to continue to be a member of NAR.
So if you really want to know, what does this mean for wholesaling? Cut the fluff, let's change this. Really the summary, right? The easy, simple one, the way I like to think about it is usually the seller, when they're selling the property, they got to pay the realtor 3% on the listing side. And then they got to pay 3% for the buyer, and it's already fixed. When I have my listing, it's 6%. And guess what happens? The buyer's agent's only going to show Sally Sue properties that they're going to make money on. Now, I know it's not every single case, but for a lot of cases, realtors really only care about the commission. Now, not for all realtors, but a vast majority of them are out for their own commission. That's why they don't do 1%, right? That is the truth. So what basically is happening here is we are cutting real estate commissions for a seller pretty much by half. So right now, the buyer's going to have to pay or negotiate with the buyer's agent how they're going to pay them. And then the listing agent's going to do the same for themselves. Now, they can kind of do the old school thing and the seller could pay it, but they're going to have to be a lot more upfront and transparent with that. But I don't think we're going to see much of that at all. What we're mostly going to see here is the buyer's agent being paid from the buyer, the seller's agent being paid from the seller. And this is going to cause a lot of changes. The number one analytics we can see here clearly states that commissions are probably going to go down 25 to 50%. If you look at commercial real estate, real estate agents are getting paid 1%, 0.5%, and on big multifamily properties, like 0.25%. If you go to Europe or if you go anywhere internationally, realtors are getting paid half per property they sell than they do in the United States. It's just kind of overinflated. And I personally have to think it's because of NAR with their monopolistic practices trying to push commissions all the way up as much as they can. They could do 12%, they would do 12%. So you're going to be asking yourself, like, what does this have to mean for wholesaling real estate? Well, if real estate commissions go down by 50%, we're going to see, like you said, a mass exodus of realtors leaving, which is going to hurt NAR, which is, oh no, terrible. But what this means is because it's going to cost 50% less for realtors' commission to sell a house, real estate investors and flippers like you and me, when I have to sell a $300,000 house, if I bought it for 200, I put some money into it, I flip it for 300, I'm going to go from paying maybe 6% to paying 3% or heck, 2%, which is going to give me a 4% savings. A 4% savings of 300,000 is going to be $12,000. Guess what happens if I'm making more profits? If I'm paying less realtors, I net more money, which is good for the consumer. On top of that too, if I'm a cash buyer paying wholesalers for my assignment fee, because I'm making an extra $12,000 per deal, I'm probably going to have a way lower MAO, which means I can pay us wholesalers more money. So this is a huge benefit. When commissions go down, the money doesn't go to the realtors anymore. It's going to go to us wholesalers because their MAOs are going to shift. So this is the biggest thing I can tell you is MAOs for your cash buyers most likely going to go down. You look at anyone talking about MAO calculations for wholesaling, they're like, well, you got to put in 6%. It's going to be for realtors and their commissions when they sell the flip for your cash buyer. Guess what? You cut that off. And then who gets that extra money? Well, it's going to be 50-50. I think wholesalers are going to get probably an extra bonus per deal, but also that profit's going to go back to the cash buyer because that's who deserves to have it. So this is massive. On top of this too, and probably the biggest con or shift I'm going to say here is going to be how ARVs, comps, and sales prices are going to be really different.
Yeah. So with the change in the MLS rules where the compensation was clearly laid out in the listing in MLS, which appraisers have access to it, realtors and agents have access to it, and then when you buy the property or sell the property access, that's actually going to be held privately now. So the net effect is that extra 3 to 5%, you're not going to be able to figure out if it was compensated or not. Sometimes they can sell a property for as little as 1%. Sometimes they might not even charge anything, although highly unlikely. What I'm saying to you is there could be a 3 to 5% variation in comps going forward because MLS was the predominant comp service. And with not everything going through MLS by breaking up this monopoly is you're going to have to use public record. I believe there's going to be multiple competitors that could possibly come out to offer a better service because they're not tied down with this ridiculous lawsuit. So what I'm saying is comps are going to be off. And think about appraisers. They call all the time to find out if there's special concessions, give backs towards credits, and they hate making that call like 1 out of 10 times. I believe they're going to handicap all MLS properties and just bake in a 3 to 5% discount. And so this is going to kind of screw comps up. And basically what we're telling you, if you're going to be a wholesaler, it's more important now to understand you have to buy these properties for the lowest amount because wholesalers don't fight for that last 5 or 6%. We leave that to the realtors and the speculators. So it's more important wholesaling now that you don't rely heavily on like a very close MAO margin when you buy your properties. Listen, comps are going to be off for a year or two, and you've got to figure that in your equation, and you got to have an understanding. It is not going to be as clear cut as it was in the past.
Exactly. So if a property is used to being sold with a comp for $100,000, remember the seller's agent's paying a full 6% on that. Maybe the buyer's agent pays the 3% of $100,000 sales price to the buyer. Or maybe there's a concession and now the sales price is $97,000. So it's like, it was $100K, now it's $97. Oh no. Guys, we're going to see some variability for it, but as long as you know that comps aren't an exact number, they're a range, just go for the no, go for low offers, and really do the things we talk about. You're going to be fine for wholesaling real estate. This is a huge net benefit for wholesaling real estate. We're going to have more money we're going to make on our deals because cash buyers are going to be able to pay more because they're going to make more money. A lot of realtors are going to exit this business, which is not a terrible thing. We're going to see a massive shift because if realtors exit, I see some of them joining wholesaling, which could be a pro or con. We got to really see how that's going to go. And ARV is going to have a big change. Now, NAR is supposed to pay $418 million over a couple of years. I mean, their net revenue is $22 million. And according to their latest statistics for 2024, they're actually running a deficit because they're getting declining statistics in 2024. And this was before the lawsuit and before everything. Even on top of this too, the DOJ actually withdrew their settlement a couple years ago with the National Association of Realtors because that settlement would have stopped the DOJ from going after NAR in the future for antitrust. And now they're going back to it. We see the proof right here. So we see NAR not going completely away or going down, but the writing's on the wall. Things are getting worse. So when your average real estate wholesaling influencer who is a realtor tells you to become a realtor, just heed the warning. We're going to see massive issues. NAR is going to bring the cost of these lawsuits back to the realtors and start charging more. They're going to have less money to lobby against wholesaling real estate and other laws. And they're in a predicament right now where they have to be like every other realtor across the world and actually make a fair amount of money, not a stupid inflated amount. Wholesaling real estate is one of the best industries to get into. And if you're watching this, you're scared as a realtor, stop going from working 60 hours a week to make a measly $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in commissions and start making $100,000 a year or 2 or 3, 4, 500 grand a year by working 20, 30, maybe even 40 hours a week and scaling up a business where you make a ton of money and you can start using that to build long-term wealth. Wholesaling real estate is the way. If you're scared about all these real estate laws or wholesaling laws coming in, there to this day hasn't been one law telling people that they cannot assign contracts. Now, there's only one state in Illinois that says you have to be a realtor. The other ones have very big loopholes that I've talked about before that don't really target us real estate wholesalers completely, and they're actually mostly unconstitutional. Now, talk to a lawyer before you do anything, but really, I think everyone's really overblowing how these real estate wholesaling regulations are, because really they don't affect wholesaling or the assignment of contract at all, pretty much. It's mostly about the marketing for most states. And really, if you wholesale like we tell you at freewholesaling.com, you're going to be fine. So guys, this is a big benefit for us wholesalers, a celebration, if you will, because we're going to make more money and we're going to do well by wholesaling houses. So guys, stop with the drama of regulations and what's going on. If there's something big, we're going to tell you, and stop freaking out over NAR lawsuit, how it's a bad thing. It's absolutely an amazing gift you're getting. So guys, if you're ready to start wholesaling real estate, learning for free, make sure you go to our free real estate wholesaling course, freewholesaling.com. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe. This is Zach signing out.
Rick signing out.
Have a blessed one.
See you guys.